Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Arjun, and I know I'm late to this, but I got a chance to watch Venom: The Last Dance a few weeks ago, and I didn't share my review for it. So even though I'm late, I do still want to talk about it because I have discussed how much I like the first two Venom movies in the past. So in this video, I'm going to review Venom: The Last Dance. Now, before I get into my review, I know this is a pretty relatively big movie. If you guys have seen it, let me know down in the comments. What did you guys think of Venom: The Last Dance? How much do you enjoy the first two movies? I'd like to know like your point of reference. What were you expecting going into this movie? All right, with that down, I'm gonna get into my thoughts on the movie. And now this was a movie I was really excited for just because I really liked the first two movies. I know a lot of people hate on the Venom films and just the Sony Marvel movies in general. I don't like Morbius. I don't like Madam Web. Madam Web came out earlier this year as well. But even though I don't like those two, I really enjoy the first two Venom movies. I think the first one is just a really fun, like, kind of introduction to this bromance between Eddie and Venom. I think Tom Hardy does a really good job playing Eddie and even voicing Venom. And I think because of that, it just makes for a really fun experience in that first movie. And then the second movie takes what the first movie did and it like takes most of the stuff that it did well. So it has just a lot of that fun Venom Eddie elements. It has a lot of cool action sequences. You obviously have a better villain with Carnage. So I think I'd argue the second movie is even slightly better than the first one. Now going into this one, I obviously I didn't watch all the trailers and everything. I didn't know the general gist of it because I knew that Null was going to be a part of this movie. And I know a little bit about Null from the comics. He's like the creator of all the symbiotes and stuff. But I don't know like the full extent of his power. I don't know much about him. I got especially excited when I joined and I found out that Andy Serkis was the one that joined to play him. I thought that was going to be really interesting. And after watching the movie, I have to say the movie isn't all that great. Especially because I do enjoy the first two movies and other people don't like the first two movies. I thought this was going to be like kind of on the same level as those two, where it's like it's fun, it's entertaining, but it's nothing crazy. It's not one of the greatest movies ever or anything. It's just a fun experience. And I'll say this, there's moments in this movie where you get that good stuff, where you get the Eddie Venom bromance, where it's fun, it's entertaining. There's especially an action scene at the like towards the beginning of the film where Venom and Eddie fight like a group of criminals, like underground or something. And it's just a really cool scene. It's really fun to watch scenes like that. And there's other moments too. Obviously in the trailers you saw there's like a Venom horse and stuff like that. There's a lot of cool gimmicks like that throughout the film that make the film really entertaining. But there's just a lot of stupid stuff in this movie too. There's this whole idea of a codex, and the codex is very inconsistent, and the logic behind what Null is going after in this movie doesn't really make any sense. Null is literally just not in the movie at all. Maybe he has like a minute of screen time at most. Maybe actually probably not even that much. Maybe like 30 seconds of screen time at most. So obviously that was really disappointing to me because I was expecting like Andy Serkis to be this big villain in this movie because they teased him in the trailers, but he just ends up being a very small part of the movie and pretty much having no impact on the story at all. And as much as I like the Venom Eddie bromance, it's not enough to save this movie, especially because a lot of the movie is kind of just Eddie being on the run. There's nothing compelling about the story of this movie. And not that there was anything in the first two movies either. The first two movies, it's just the first one has its own little mission with the scientists going and messing with the symbiotes and stuff. And the second one is more so about Carnage and him being created and him, doing his evil stuff. This movie doesn't have that. There's no villain, there's nothing obvious that you're fighting against. It's just they're on the run, and while they're on the run there happens to be big alien monsters that they have to fight, and it kind of comes to a head in the third act, but really nothing pays off that well. It kind of just feels like a bunch of stuff happening until the third act comes around. I will say this though, the best thing about this entire movie is the third act. I know a lot of people kind of complain about the final battles in the Venom movies. I actually enjoyed the first two as well. Even though the first one, especially, is like it's like in the dark, you have two black symbiotes. It's very confusing as to what's actually going on. But I still enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. The second movie, the Carnage fight scenes are all fantastic in my opinion, and I think the final battle in the second movie is also really good. But out of the three movies, I will say this has the best final battle. This has some really awesome stuff going on in the third act. Now, I don't want to spoil anything, just in case you haven't seen the movie, because I know not everyone has, but still, it's just a really fun third act. You get to see a bunch of cool symbiote action sequences with these big monsters. The monsters are actually really cool, I will say that. Even though they have no personality, there's nothing really, I guess, interesting about them. The way they're designed, the way they function is really cool. Like when there's like thing where when they eat a person, blood sprays out as they're eating them, and I thought that was cool. Even though it's nothing like crazy, it's just visually really cool. I'll also say this movie has a surprising amount of blood. Like it has a lot more blood than the first two Venom movies. The first two Venom movies have sequences that are violent, but it doesn't show the blood in those scenes, especially the second one, Carnage. A lot of the Carnage fight scenes have a lot of really violent stuff, but you never see any blood. This movie has a really surprising amount of blood, and I really appreciated that. Even though the movie is garbage, I thought that was really cool that they were able to incorporate stuff like that and have violent sequences, have blood, have gory stuff throughout the movie. Like I said, though, the story for this movie is completely uninspired. It's just Venom and Eddie are on the run, and they happen to have a bunch of coincidental stuff happening at the same time. Because of that, I couldn't really buy into the story of the movie. There's nothing that kept me engaged throughout the whole thing. I found myself nodding off at a few points where throughout the middle of the movie, so it just ended up disappointing me. And because especially I enjoy the first two movies so much and I've defended them, like when I reviewed the second movie, a lot of people said, that's not a good movie. Like, I don't know why you're enjoying like a Venom movie, because they're so dumb, but at the same time they're just entertaining, they're fun. This movie lacks a lot of that fun stuff. And I also will say this, there's like a whole separate family plot line that happens in this movie that I was so confused as to why there's like so much of this one family. There's like they get like 20 minutes of screen time in the middle of the movie, and it just slows to a crawl in that whole segment. It's just, I get that they were trying to bring some humanity into the mix and show like characters that are human and experiencing like their outside perspective on aliens and whatever. But whatever it was trying to do, it did not work because it was boring. The characters were not interesting. There was nothing that separate side storyline added to this movie. It just felt like out of, obviously there's nothing going on throughout the whole movie. There's no story to it. It just felt like that was just another piece thrown in there just to add filler throughout this movie. And it sucks that I'm saying this because I really wanted to like this movie. I was actually excited for it. I really liked the third act though. I think the third act is really fun. And there's some entertaining moments throughout the first two acts as well. But as a whole, I was really bored throughout this movie. It didn't have much to offer for me. And even though there's a couple of moments that I enjoyed, as a movie overall, I don't think it works. It also has a really bad soundtrack. There's a bunch of needle drop moments, a bunch of songs that are played where I'm just like, why did they decide to put this in this movie? Especially at the very end. Something relatively sad happens at the end of the movie, and they play a song, and I couldn't help but cringe. And I was trying not to. I really wanted to take it seriously, but it was bad. I don't know why they made that song choice, or just the song choices throughout the movie in general. The soundtrack really sucked, which again, that was another thing that just it just added more negativity for me on the film. Because I wanted to like it, it just ended up disappointing me. There's a lot of things working against it. So I know a lot of people said that if you enjoy the first two Venom movies, you also enjoy this one just because it's kind of in the same realm as far as entertainment value goes. I enjoy the first two. I don't think that. I think this movie is pretty easily the weakest of the three. And it's not even close, really. It's pretty easily the worst. So for my score, I'm going to give this movie a 47%. I'm kind of in that 50-50 range where I'm like, I enjoyed parts of it enough to say it's like meh, it's not great. But I think as a movie overall, it just really fails to deliver on anything, and especially compared to the first two, it's really not that great. I did get a poster for this movie though, right here, this one. It's a really cool poster. I'll have a picture up if you can't see it properly. But it's a cool poster. I got it at the Regal that I watched it at, so it was really cool. So yeah, guys, those are my thoughts on Venom: The Last Dance. Let me know down in the comments, what did you guys think of this movie if you've seen it? And if you enjoyed my review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I'll also leave links to my other social media in the description below, so go follow me on there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.